Hey guys, Plonk here and welcome back to a brand new Blazing Emerald challenge. A few weeks ago I did a regional forms only run. You guys seem to really enjoy it, so I came up with a similar idea. Today we find out, can you beat Pokemon Blazing Emerald using only Fakemons? As the name would suggest, a Fakemon is, well, a fake Pokemon. Pretty much exactly what you'd expect. Now, as you'll know if you've seen my last Blazing Emerald video, the game has a ton of new regional forms. These won't be allowed in this challenge, however if they evolve into a brand new Pokemon, then I can use those. For example, Farfetch'd received a regional form in Sword and Shield. With this rule set, this would not classify it as a new Pokemon, however it does now evolve into Surfetch'd, so it then would be eligible. In Blazing Emerald's case, this means that something like Huini and Dunsparce would be allowed, as it does evolve into Drasprath. I won't be using one of those though, as I did use one in the previous run. Not all of my team members will be evolutions of old Pokemon, but most of them are, so I just wanted to make that distinction. There's not really any point in going over the rules, as I've basically just explained everything. I'll just add here that I won't be using items in battle, and I'll be playing in set mode this time, as many of you have actually asked for this. Also, shout out goes to these people who found the dabbing Delibird in the last video. As always, he's hiding away somewhere in this one too, so comment down below if you see him and you might get featured in the next one. With all of that out of the way, let's do this. I start the game picking the male character and call him Rudy. As always, comment down below if you get the reference. We can actually get our first Pokemon right away, that being the regional form of Venonat. Last time I used one it evolved into Muromoth, so I made sure to catch a female this time which evolves into a different Pokemon. Because of this, the beginning of this game is basically identical to the last time, so I'll just quickly skim through the first gym or two. Aeron is at first but actually goes down to a single Signal Beam, thanks to a lucky crit. Geodude also goes down in one hit, and so does Rhyhorn. That's about as easy as it gets. With our first badge I travel to Juford Town, and of course change the trendy saying, and catch myself a Weedle. Weedle has a new evolution in this game, but it's actually quite complicated to actually get one, so I'm just going to leave it in the PC for now. Blake is up next and I'm told this is actually a guy? Okay, fair enough. First up is Murkrow, so I just go for a Signal Beam, which is actually just a one-hit KO. Houndour is up next but survives the Signal Beam, and paralyzes us with a Glare. He then heals up with an Oran Berry and then goes for a Flame Wheel, but we do hang on and take it out with one more Signal Beam, and his last Pokemon is Sneasel. We get outsped and hit by a weak Pursuit, but we survive and again just take it out with a single Signal Beam, for another easy win. Before doing anything else we have to fight against May, but this wasn't really a difficult fight either. Wingull's up first and takes huge damage from a feint attack, as we do get confused. Thankfully we don't hit ourselves though and one more finishes it off, and next up is Charmeleon. I put it to sleep with a Hypnosis, and then just keep spamming feint attack. It doesn't take long for us to get the KO and she doesn't even wake up, and her last Pokemon Lombre is weak to Signal Beam. We take a Fake Out but obviously it does next to no damage, and then we can just one hit KO with the Signal Beam. Considering we've only got a Venonat, this has been a very easy run so far. Now we can finally get some more team members. I catch myself a Ditto. I'm going to need this if I want to get my new Weedle evolution, so I put them both in the daycare, and just wait for some sweet magic to happen. It doesn't take long for us to get an egg, which of course hatches into a Weedle, and now all I need to do is get its happiness up to full, so I just run around until that happens. The reason I couldn't have done this with my other Weedle is because it needs to evolve under level 8. Once its happiness reaches its maximum, I train it up until it evolves into Kakuna, and then again into our new evolution. This thing's called Drilladin, and I really like this design. Unlike Beedrill, it's more focused on defense, but still has a great attack stat as well. We're not done yet though with the new additions. We evolve Venonat into Lusamoth, which now becomes part Fairy, and we learn the move Moonrazor, which is a powerful Fairy move that can deal a random status problem. We also get ourselves a brand new Pokemon. If you show this woman a Pokemon with 0 happiness, she gives you this Pokemon called Bullfrog. It's a normal water type, with an ability that lowers attack on contact. It's got good HP, but everything else is kind of just mediocre, but I'm just glad we have a water type on the team. I do some training and face off against Watson, who wasn't actually that bad. Luxio's up first, so I start off with our new Drilladin, and we take a Shockwave like it's absolutely nothing, and go for a Swords Dance. We then survive a Spark as well, but we do get paralyzed, but one Pin Missile is all we need for the KO, and next up is Electrode. Again, we survive a shockwave easily, and another pin missile does some good damage. Electro then just goes for self-destruct, but we actually survive the hit. That was not his smartest choice. Next up is Manectric though, who just takes us out with a Thunderclap. So I send in Lucamoth and go for our new Moonrazor move, which actually just takes it out from full health. Watson's final Pokemon is Magnezone, and I don't really have any good moves against this thing, so I just go for another Moonrazor, which actually does quite a lot considering it's not very effective. He ends up missing a Supersonic too, so we can land one more to bring it down to red health, as he hits an Overcharge. This does massive damage to us, but he does get paralyzed, but then he heals up with a Citrus Berry, which means he actually just survives a Moonrazor with the tiniest sliver of health, and takes us out with one more. I can just send in Bullfrog though, and because he's paralyzed we're faster, and we can just clean up with a Water Gun. Magnezone goes down, and that's 3 badges in our collection. Before moving on, I catch my next 2 team members, that being both a Zangoose and a Seviper. The reason being is both of these Pokemon have new evolutions, but they're actually quite difficult to obtain. They each have a 5% chance of holding their respective item, so I basically just spend ages using Thief until I finally find the item. To give you an insight of how long this took, I actually found a shiny before I found either of the item. Really? Of course I catch it, no shiny left behind, and not long after we do finally get the first of the 2 items. I use it immediately to evolve Seviper into Silviper, which now becomes part Steel. I also get the item to evolve Zangoose into Zangaro, which becomes part Dark. With our new members I take on Maxie, but this wasn't really a difficult fight as we have Bullfrog. First up is Ursaring, who deals huge damage with a Thrash, but we lower his attack and hit back with a Whirlpool, which brings it down below half. Because of this we survive the incoming Thrash, and then just finish it off with a Water Gun. Camerupt is up next, but it's 4 times weak to water, so just goes down in 1 Water Gun. Trust me, we did not need that crit. And now we're down to his final Pokemon, Typhlosion. It goes for Flame Wheel, but we somehow survive the hit with 3 health left, which means we can just hit another Water Gun. I decide just to switch out into Zangaro, who easily takes a quick attack and then retaliates with a Crush Claw, which leaves him on a sliver of health. We easily survive the incoming Ember though, and just finish it off with a Thief for the win. The 4th gym leader Flannery is next, but this was a pretty similar fight. Larvesta's up first, so I lead with Bullfrog, and she does actually set up the sun, which could be a problem for our water type, but we just get a critical hit anyway to bring it down to a sliver, and then the residual damage from Whirlpool just takes it out from there. Camrup's up next and takes huge damage from Whirlpool, and hits back with a Body Slam, which we take easily. A second Whirlpool takes that thing out as well, and next up is Rapidash. She goes for Double Edge, which does okay damage, but we just lower her attack, and again hit a Whirlpool for decent damage. Eventually we're able to take it out, thanks to her using Bounce and then just getting taken out while in the air by the Whirlpool. Now we just need to beat her final Pokemon, Skarmory, who goes for Flare Blitz, but it just hardly does any damage, and in return Whirlpool does a great amount. We easily survive another Flare Blitz, which means we can just take it out with 1 more Whirlpool, and win ourselves the 4th badge. Let's go straight to the 5th gym leader, Norman. He starts off with a Linoon, so I start with Drilladin, and while we do get outsped and hit by a Body Slam, we take it no problem, and in return our Poison Jab does huge damage. We get the Poison as well, which brings him down to red health, but unfortunately we do get paralyzed by the second Body Slam, and then fully paralyzed. He just survives the Poison as well and goes for a Facade the next turn, but even though it's boosted we survive, and I just take the opportunity to set up a Sword Stance. The Poison damage then finishes him off, and Blissy's up next. We can survive a Facade though, and 1 Poison Jab is easily enough to take that thing out from full health. And next up is Exploud, who does take us out with a Facade, so I send in Lucamoth, and go straight for the Moonrazor, which does well over half, as we survive the incoming Hyper Voice. 1 more takes that thing out easily, and now we're down to his final Pokemon, Slacking. I decide to switch in Silviper, who does get hit by a Facade, but it's not very effective, so as he's loafing around I can hit it with the Glare, and then just start going for Crunch. It's boosted by our Strong Draw ability and we even get a crit and lower its defense, as he hits back with a Low Kick for good damage. Thanks to his ability healing him as well as a Citrus Berry, it takes a few hits before we can finally take it out, but we do get a critical hit to bring it down to red health, and he even gets fully paralyzed. This means we can take it out with 1 more, and the 5th badge is ours. We faced off against May, but to be honest her team was just really easy, so we just beat her Charizard with our Bug type, and move on to the 6th gym leader, Winona. Swallow's up first, so I lead with Silviper. I have the Stab Iron Tail now, which does huge damage, as her Brave Bird does next to nothing. She is left on red health though, but we just take another Brave Bird with ease, and take it out with a Crunch, and next up is Dodrio. We do get our attack low by the Intimidate, so I decide to swap into Lusamoth, who is able to survive an Earthquake, but we do actually get outsped and left on 2 health by 1 more, and in return we do some good damage with Moonrazor, but we do get taken out the next turn of course, so I just switch in Bullfrog, who gets hit by a Brave Bird, and she just takes herself out with a Recoil. Next up is Togekiss though, who just goes for Wish, so I go for Weepy Wail, which is a move that lowers special attack, and this means her Aura Sphere doesn't do that much. She does heal back all of her health though from the Wish, so as we're not really going to be getting anywhere, I swap into Drilladin, who has the super effective Poison Jab. We tank an Air Slash with about half our health remaining, and in return Poison Jab leaves him on red health. She does get healed up by the Wish, but instead of attacking me she just goes for another one, which means we can take it out with another Poison Jab. Next up is Tropius, so I go for another Poison Jab, but we just get outsped and taken out by a Brave Bird, so I send in Silviper once again. Poison Tail is actually a one-hit KO thanks to a critical hit, and now we just need to beat her final Pokemon Pelipper, who takes some good damage from Poison Tail and gets poisoned as well. Not only that, but she misses the Supersonic, which means that after the poison damage, one more brings it down to a Sliver, and then again the poison just takes it out, winning us badge number 6. Once again we beat Maxie, but this was just as easy as before, so let's move on to Moss Deep City, where we get our final team member. That being the Crystal Onyx. I decide just to use my Luster Ball on this thing, which if you don't know, makes any Pokemon you catch a shiny. It's an Ice Rock type in this game, and has an ability which makes water moves completely useless. This is a really good ability, as you'll see later. I train it up some levels and evolve it in the process, into a Chrysalix, and now we have our final team. With it I take on the 7th gym leaders Tate and Liza, who start off with Grumpig and Hypno. I'm not going to sugarcoat it though, this gym was really easy. I send in Zangaro and Lusamoth, who are both super effective against Psychic, and go straight for Signal Beam on the Hypno, which brings it down to red health, and then follow up with a Night Slash on Grumpig for a one-hit KO. Lunatone comes out next, as Lusamoth finishes off the Hypno with one more Signal Beam, and now their final Pokemon Solrock comes out, and sets up the Sun. Zangoro brings Lunatone down to a sliver of health with a Night Slash, as they just decide to go for Calm Mind. This means that a Signal Beam takes it out, and now it's just 2-on-1. I go for another Night Slash, which Solrock just survives as well, and retaliates with a super effective Flamethrower, but we survive the hit. She does use a Citrus Berry, but it's too little too late, as one more Signal Beam takes it out, and we win the 7th badge. There's just one more badge to go, but before we can do that we have to face off against Archie, but again this wasn't really that hard. Mightyena is up first, so I start with Chrysalix, and go for the move Crystallize, which is a special rock move, and it leaves him on red health. He just goes for Taunt though, so we can take it out with an Ancient Power the next turn, and next up is Sharpedo. This is why this ability is so good. I don't think the AI knows that I have this ability, so it goes for a water move thinking that it's super effective, but it just does nothing. I can retaliate with another Crystallize to take it out from full health, and next up is Dewgong. Again though, it goes for a water move and does nothing, so we go for another Crystallize, and then they try again to go for a water move. This means I can take it out with one more, and his last Pokemon is Feraligatr. Surely this thing won't go for a water move, right? Yes, it does actually. I do actually miss a Crystallize, but it just doesn't matter, as he never tries to do anything except for Liquidation. This means I basically just swept his entire team with a Chrysalix, without taking a single point of damage. It just so happens that the 8th gym leader is also a water type user, so you can guess how this went. I decided to start with Silviper though for his first Pokemon Mantine, who does hit a Scald for good damage, but we retaliate with a Poison Tail for good damage of our own, and we poison it too. He does take us out with a crit the next turn though, so I just send in Zangaro, and take it out with a single Strength. Whiscash is up next, so I go for another Strength, which does about half as we take an Earthquake, and thankfully one more is just enough to take it out as well, and next up is Politoed. It sets up the Rain with Drizzle, which could be an issue, but I'm able to hit one more Strength for really good damage, before finally going down to a Scald. Now I can send in Chrysalix and just take it out with a Crystallize, and next up is Kingdra, who, you guessed it, goes for a water move. Our Crystallize does good damage, and while he does go for rest, we're able to take it out before he wakes up, and his last Pokemon Crawdont comes out, so I go for another Crystallize to bring it down to low health, and again he goes for a water move. Honestly, this ability paired with the AI is kinda overpowered. I can just take it out with an Earth Power the next turn, and now we've earned ourselves all 8 badges. Before facing the Elite Four though, we had to fight Wally, but again this didn't cause many problems. Altaria is up first, so I start with Lucamoth, and we outspeed and go for the super effective Moonrazor for an easy KO. Gallade is up next, and again is weak to Moonrazor, so I go for it, but it does actually survive, and he hits back with a Fire Punch. He gets a crit as well to take us out from full health, so I send in Zangaro, and Revenge Kill with an extreme speed. Delcatty's up next, and just about survives a strength on red health, and goes for assist. This gives it the move Thunderbolt, but it really doesn't do that much. So again, I just take it out with an extreme speed, and next up is Magnezone. This thing's 4 times weak to Earthquake, so again it's just an easy one hit KO, and next up is Roserade. I outspeed and go for another strength, and you guessed it, it's a one hit KO. I never realised just how overpowered this Pokemon was. Wally's final Pokemon is Gardevoir, so I just outspeed and go for another strength, and again it's a one hit KO. That was a borderline sweep. We travel through Victory Road, and here's a look at our final team. Honestly, I'm really happy with how this has turned out. It really does go to show just how good the new Pokemon in this game really are. We are a little bit under level for the Elite Four, but I'm pretty confident that we can take them down, but there's only one way to find out. Let's see how we do. First up is Ghost type user Phoebe, but this fight was kinda easy thanks to Zangaro. Dusclops is up first but goes down in a single Night Slash thanks to a crit, and so does Bayonet. Dusknoir's up next and does survive a Night Slash, and unfortunately burns us, which does cut short our sweep, but we can still take it out with one more Night Slash, and next up is Gengar. She outspeeds and goes for an Ice Beam, but we do just hang on, and even with the burn, Night Slash does huge damage. Of course we fall to one more Ice Beam though, so I send in Lucamoth. I just go for the Moonrazor for an easy knockout, and next up is Kofagrigus. A couple of Moonrazors bring that thing down to red health and we get the paralysis too, but she does put us to sleep with a Shadow Trance, and then just takes us out with a Shadow Ball and a Shadow Punch, so I just send in Silviper and finish it off with a Crunch, and the Water Ghost version of Lanturn is next. We do get outsped and hit by a Hydro Pump, but we just hang on, and one single Crunch is all we need to secure the win. Serena's up next, who uses Grass types, but my team is quite well suited to them as well. Sunflora's up first, so I lead with Silviper, and we just go straight for the Poison Tail, which takes it out from full health. Vileplume's up next though and has Chlorophyll, so he outspeeds, but just goes for Solar Beam, which does hardly any damage, so I can hit a super effective Frostbite, which is also boosted by our ability. It's not quite enough for a one hit KO, but we survive a second Solar Beam like it's nothing, and finish it off with a Crunch. The regional form of Shuckle is up next, so I go for the Stab Iron Tail, which does just under half, but we do get the defense drop, and she decides just to go for Ingrain, which actually does just save her from another Iron Tail, but instead of attacking she just goes for Leech Seed, so we can take it out with a Frostbite the next turn, and next up is Reuniclus. It's a Grass Psychic type in this game, so I go for the super effective Poison Tail, which does decent damage as we get taken out by a Psychic. I send in Lucamoth though just to clean up with a Signal Beam, and next up is Ferrothorn. Signal Beam does decent damage and we get the Confusion too, but unfortunately she hits through Confusion and takes us out with a single Iron Head. I send in Drilladin and decide to set up a Swords Dance, but unfortunately she snaps out of Confusion and paralyzes us with a Thunder Wave. She just goes for Leech Seed though, so a single boosted Brick Breaker is enough to take that thing out as well, and now her last Pokemon Meganium comes out. Obviously we get outsped, but we 4 times resist Petal Dance, which does next to nothing, and we go for a Viragate. This is a poison move that raises the user's speed, but we don't even need the boosted speed as it's just a one hit KO. Meganium goes down and we beat in the second member of the Elite Four. Ice type user Glacier's up next, but she uses some water types, so you already know what I'm going to do here. I start with Chrysalix and go for the Ancient Power. As you guessed it, she goes for a water move. I think Lapras has multi-scale in this game as it doesn't really do that much, and next turn she actually doesn't go for a water move and goes for Perish Song instead, but another Ancient Power brings it down to low health. Again though, she goes back to using Surf, so I can take it out with an Earth Power from there, and next up is Mamoswine. I want to save Chrysalix for later, so I swap into Bullfrog, who's able to easily take not 1 but 2 Stone Surges, and hit back with a Surf. It doesn't quite take it out though, and we unfortunately get taken out by an Earthquake the next turn, so I send in Zangaro and go for the Extreme Speed, which obviously takes it out, and next up is Frostlass, who does actually outspeed and go for a Sweet Kiss, but we don't hit ourselves in Confusion, and a single Night Slash is all we need. Next up is Chrysalix though, so I go for the Earthquake, and it is actually enough for a 1-hit KO as well. Walrein is up next, so I go for the Strength, which does about half as she goes for Curse. This means that she does survive a Night Slash, and then goes for Rest as well. I decide to switch Crystallix back in, and go straight for the Crystallize, which actually just takes it out from full health thanks to a critical hit. Glacier's final Pokemon is Glalie, so again I just go for the Crystallize, but she actually goes for Substitute. This doesn't really mean anything though, as she just goes for a Crunch the next turn, so again one Crystallize is all we need, and now there's just one more member of the Elite Four left to beat. That of course being the Dragon user Drake, who starts off with a Dragonite. Again I lead with Crystallix and go for the Ancient Power, as this has multi-scale as well, but we actually get outsped and hit by an Earthquake, which we just survive. Unfortunately we can't take it out before we go down ourselves, so I send in Bullfrog and go for the Ice Beam. He does go for Fly for some good damage, but we survive with health to spare, and Ice Beam is an easy KO from there. Next up is Drasparath though, which is absolutely terrifying. It takes Bullfrog out easily with a Thunder, so I send in Lucamoth and thankfully he misses the Cloudburst, which no doubt would have taken us out, but this means we can hit a Moonrazor for an easy one-hit KO. Flygon's up next, so I go for another Moonrazor, but much to my surprise he does actually live the hit, and hit back with a Stone Surge which takes us out from full. I can just send in Zangaro though and finish it off with an Extreme Speed, and next up is Garchomp. I am actually faster, and not only that we get a critical hit as well, for a one-hit KO. This thing could have swept my entire team if it wanted to. Salamis is up next and does lower our attack with Intimidate, so I decide to swap into Drillodin, who's probably the least useful in this fight, as he goes for the Outrage, which we actually survive. We do go down to a second one though, but that's fine as I can switch in Silviper, who can take an Outrage easily enough, and fire back with a 4x super effective Frostbite for a one-hit KO. Last up is Dragapult, so I stay in and try and go for the Poison Tail, but we just get outsped and KO by an Earth Power, and now we're down to our final Pokemon, Zangaro. We actually get outsped and hit by a Dragon Pulse, but we survive the hit, and we get another critical hit strength, which brings it down to red health. This means I can just go for an Extreme Speed, and we beat Drake in a very close victory. Now all we need to do is beat the champion. Unfortunately though, this just wasn't happening, as he's so much higher level than us, and we unfortunately just can't get past his Gyarados, who sweeps my entire team with Dragon Dance. I did some more training though and tried again, and we do eventually get the win. First up is Wailord, so I start with Drillodin, who takes an Ice Beam easily, and hits back with a Varigate. This raises our speed, so I then go for the Swords Dance, as he goes for Water Spout, but we survive that too. One more Varigate takes it out, and now we've got +2 attack and +2 speed. Whiscash is up next, so I go for the Stab Megahorn, which thanks to the Swords Dance is an easy one-hit KO. Trust me, we did not need that critical hit. Tentacruel's up next though, and unfortunately he has a priority move in Thunderclap, so I send in Zangaro and go for the Earthquake. It's an easy one-hit KO as well, and next up is Ludicolo. I just go for the Strength, which is well over half of its health, as he just decides to go for Seismic Toss. This means I can take it out with an Extreme Speed the next turn, and next up is that Gyarados that ruined our attempt before. He does lower our attack with Intimidate, but I try and go for the critical hit with Night Slash, but we don't get it and he goes for Dragon Dance. This could be a problem, but thankfully I have the Extreme Speed, which does some great damage, as he takes us out with an Earthquake. I send in Bullfrog though, who takes an Earthquake with about half our health remaining, and go for the Uproar, which doesn't quite take it out. Earthquake doesn't even make contact, so we don't lower his attack, and he even has the Lychee Berry to raise his attack even more. Needless to say, we don't survive the incoming Earthquake, so I send in Lucamoth. He goes for yet another Earthquake, but this time we actually do just survive, which means we can take it out with a Shockwave, and now we're down to his final Pokemon, Milotic. I go straight for the Moonrazor, but it doesn't do anywhere near as much as I was expecting it to, and we get taken out by a Raging Waves. This is fine though, as he's locked into that move, so I switch in Crystallix. Of course it does no damage whatsoever, and in return Crystallize does some great damage thanks to a crit. Not only that, but he gets confused, and even hits himself in confusion. It doesn't quite take him out, but we don't miss, so it goes down, and we've done it. We beat Wallace and beat Pokemon Blazing Emerald using only Fakemons. As you'll know though, we're not done just yet. There's still one more challenge we have to face before we can say we've actually beaten this game. That of course being the Pokemon Master himself, Red. I was going to need to do some training for this though, which I do, and in the process I find not one, but 2 shinies. Come on, really? I can't use either of you. Of course though I catch both, no shiny left behind. We also get Pokerus as well, so we got some really good luck this run. With our team at about level 70, I take on Red, who starts off with a level 100 Pikachu, so I start with Zangaro. Thankfully we outspeed and a single Earthquake is all we need for a one-hit KO, and next up is Blastoise. I go straight for the Strength, which does less than half, and he goes for the Aura Sphere. This is 4 times super effective against us, so of course we don't survive. So I send in Drillidin, who takes a Blizzard easily enough and goes for the Variegate. It does decent damage but raises our speed, but even so we're not faster, but thankfully he misses the Blizzard, which means we can finish it off with a Mega Horn. Lapras is up next, so I go for the Brick Break, but unfortunately we're outsped even by this, and its Psychic takes us out. Now's the time to send in Chrysadix though, and of course he keeps going for water moves, so I can hit some Ancient Powers. One does some decent damage, but a second one just straight up murders it as we get a critical hit. I stay in for Venusaur, and go for the super effective Ice Beam as he goes for the Giga Drain, which does some massive damage, but we have good special bulk so we take the hit, but I'm pretty sure this thing has thick fat as Ice Beam does hardly anything. We get taken out by one more Giga Drain, so I send in Silviper and thankfully he misses the Sleep Powder, so I can go for the Variegate to get some decent damage in, and boost our speed too. We still get outsped though, and this time we do get put to sleep, but his Giga Drains are doing hardly any damage to us whatsoever, and we wake up really quickly. Another Variegate does some decent damage, and now we finally outspeed, and take out with one more thanks to another critical hit. Once again, we're getting lots of crits this run. Charizard's up next, but we're faster thanks to Variegate, so I can land a Frostbite for some decent damage, as we just get absolutely annihilated by a Flare Blitz. He does do some decent damage to himself though, and Bullfrog is a very good counter to this thing. We survive an Air Slash with ease, and just fire back with a Surf or a Knockout, and now we're down to his final Pokemon Snorlax. There's not really much that Bullfrog can do here, so I just go for Surf, as he hits back with a Crunch which lowers his attack. He then goes for the Giga Impact, which does take us out but we lower his attack once again, so he's actually kinda weak right now, as I send in Lucamoth, who's my last Pokemon. I confuse it with a Confuse Ray, and he can't move so I go for a Moonraze in the next turn, which doesn't do that much, but he does hit himself in Confusion. I'm hoping that one more will be enough, but he lives on a sliver of health, but then he hits himself in Confusion for a second time. He takes himself out, and now we finally have done it. That was actually a really close fight. And that's a wrap. As always, I really love this run. Blazing Emerald is a fantastic ROM hack, and I highly recommend you try it out yourself. In the description below you'll find a link to this game's Discord server, where you can find everything you'll need to play the game. Let's talk about our team for a second. Honestly, this is probably the most powerful team I've ever had in one of these runs. Lucamoth was a great special attacker, and Bullfrog and Drillidin were the tanky boys of the team, but it has to be said though, the best member of the team by far was undoubtedly Zangaro, as it was fast, it could hit hard, and its normal/dark coverage was basically unresisted. Honestly though, there wasn't a single bad member of the team, so yeah, I really have no complaints here. If you guys enjoyed this video, then please make sure to leave a like. I've got a bunch of great videos coming soon that you won't want to miss, so if you're new around here, then why not click that subscribe button? I'm trying to reach 30,000 subs by the end of the year, so let's see if we can make that happen. Also, if you missed it, then make sure to go over to Chaotic Meatball's channel and watch his 12-pack Professor Oak's challenge. A certain Delibird may even make an appearance. Once again, the links for my Twitter etc. are in the description below, so follow me on that if you want to, and that's pretty much it. So as always, thank you all so much for watching. Until next time.